movie has been a phenomenon for almost a year now.
Yeah.
And we were just sitting there kind of watching the end of it, and how do you feel revisiting even just parts of it? How have you been able to kind of put words to what the experience of being this movie from like?
No. And as I was sitting there, watching this and watching you all watch this, it occurs to me that you guys have become part of the experience. Not just the support. It goes beyond support, and it's elevated to communing. We're all communing around this piece of work, and it's kind of all-encompassing. And because, for me, it constitutes such a huge human experience, creative experience, it's very, very difficult to put into words, but without seeming to be obsequious, I really thank you, and I thank you for Ryan, for Mike B, for the Wumi, for all of us, for the support you've shown. It's extremely meaningful, and because there's just so many feelings, it's really difficult to, I could go on and on, but I won't. Thank you so much for the support. It means a lot. It means a lot. Really. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah.
Woo!
It's really something I don't think we take for granted. Just seeing a movie in a theater like this, having a crowd respond in that way, it feels like it becomes rarer and rarer. I was, listening to some other conversations you've been having about your work recently, and I've heard you talk about getting a handle on a character. Kind of when you look at someone, you say, "How am I going to be this person? What is my way into this person?" Was there a simple trick for that for you with Delta Slim? Was there a thing that made you say, "Oh, I know who this guy is"?
No, it was never a question of, oh, I've got this. It was a step-by-step process. Starting with books. Ryan sent me Blues People by Mary Baraka, who was Leroy Jones when he wrote the book Blues People, and Deep Blues by Robert Palmer, and then musicians from the period, from the region, Muddy Waters, Son House, Howlin' Wolf, a lot of musicians, Ike Turner, performing the music, talking about the music, and in talking about the music, giving me insights into lifestyle, their lives and their lifestyles, looking at a lot of documentaries and from people in the region, from the Delta, and working with musicians in New Orleans, brilliant New Orleans-based musicians who helped me with, as I navigated the keyboard, the piano, and the harmonica. I think it was kind of a compendium of all of those things, which kind of comprised a step-by-step process of hopefully getting closer and closer to the work and to Delta Slim.
Is that how you've always worked? Just build piece by piece, and then the character kind of emerges from that?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, you were talking about the music and the history that's part of that. There's so much history around the edges of centers. You get a character or a line or something that suggests something that we don't see, and your monologue in the car, I think, is a big part of that. You're telling a story that's about this whole world that isn't on screen, but is informing all of these characters.
Right.
And it's my understanding that kind of you film it and you saw a cut of it and it might have gotten shorter, and that you and Ryan kind of talked about it and about making that really outstanding monologue such a key part of how this film works. Can you talk about how that worked?
I just want to, in the last few weeks that I have been asked about this, I'm glad I'm asked about it because it gives me an opportunity opportunity to clarify something. Ryan was never intent on cutting monologue. I think it was an outgrowth of deciding from the studio what the length of the film would be. Because the length of the film in the various test screenings that they did varied, and they were trying to calibrate. And I'm surmising this, right? But the first cut that I saw, indeed, the chain gang scene was missing, was gone, and some very significant parts as a result of the chain gang scene being gone. Some significant parts of the monologue had been truncated, cut. And I think, and if you ever speak with Ryan, he knew very well, because at the end of the screening, he turned to me and said, man, what you think? And I said, man, can we talk, man? And we talked. And he heard, what I was saying, and I found out later that some of the other actors seeing the cut had spoken to him very, very similarly. The importance of reinserting the chain gang scene, the fact that was very directly connected to my own origin story, Delta's origin story, but also not only that, but the fact that the fact of its relationship to the overall narrative that he's telling. So he heard me very, very loudly and clearly, and the scenes were reinserted.
Yeah. So we're here as part of double feature. These guys are going to see the Five Bloods in a little bit. So do you mind if we rewind for a little bit? Because if we're going to see the Five Bloods, we should talk about Spike Lee. And
Beautiful.
it's my understanding, you were first told together as Malcolm X, but it's my understanding that before that, you were kind of on his radar that around the time of Do the Right Thing, and it didn't work out. You had just gotten your Tony nomination at the time, you were busy on the stage. So when Spike Lee finally did come into your orbit, how did that relationship start? What was the spark between the two of you when you did get to work together?
Yeah, there were quite a few sparks. Yes, it's been said, excuse me, Spike had offered me, no, he didn't offer it to me. He wanted me to come in and audition for Do the Right Thing, one of the three, Greek chorus characters.
Redwall?
Yes. And I politely declined because, as you said, I was coming off of Tony nominations, brilliant, played by August Wilson, Joe Turner's Come and Gone, brilliant work. And I just felt that there wasn't enough there. And so I declined to come in and audition for him for that. Thank God he came back to me for West Indian Archie. From the pretty much, when I auditioned for West Indian Archie, he offered me the part. And pretty much as soon as we started rehearsing, there was a trust that he had in me. Maybe partially because, Denzel was playing Malcolm, and Denzel and I had gone to school together at ACT, American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. But there's always been a regard and a trust with Spike, and that has formed the bedrock of our creative work together. I always say that, I'm batting 1,000 with Spike at 4 films, and he's never steered me wrong. There's always these gifts of parts that he offers me, and consequently, the work is just very, very rich. But to answer your question, there's always been a respect and a regard for me as a creative person that obviously is mutual, but that informs our working relationship and always has.
these three films that you make together in the 90s Malcolm X and then Crooklyn and Clockers, he's bringing you back as sort of paternal figures all these times, and there's this idea of threat in some of them, and then power in all of them. You know, bringing you in as the person who's kind of making his own weather in some way. And I wonder about playing those three roles, and Crooklyn is such a warm character, piano playing right there, bringing you right back to Sinners.
Yeah.
What is, at that point in your career, what did that teach you about what you could do, about how a director would think of you, and kind of how you work with that idea of many different kinds of father figures? And I think it carries into the Five Bloods as well.
You know, it's interesting because I don't think of the parts as father figures per se, even though I take your point. Because I've worked on each character individually, and I never kind of get to take a half a step back and look at these things more globally until I'm asked a question by a journalist or whomever. I do remember the father figure aspects. If you'd have asked me back then, back in 1992 when we shot Malcolm X, is Weston and Archie a father figure to Malcolm? I probably would not have denied it. I wouldn't have said, no, you're wrong. But I don't think that was uppermost in my mind, per se. Mentor. But you're right, there is that father figure. Much more clearly delineated with Woody Carmichael in Crooklyn, obviously. And then Rodney Little, definitely father figure. Because for me it was very important, and I've said this, who has seen Clockers? Raise your hand. Okay, so a lot of people have still not seen it. It's a very underrated film, and for me, specifically with Clockers and Rodney, it was very important to deconstruct and to examine the father figure aspect. And that, honestly, was more enticing to me, more interesting to me than the selling of the drugs. Because what my way in, one of the ways in for me playing Rodney was to try to answer for myself and then therefore hopefully present to the audiences, what is it about a man like Rodney that results in him becoming a father figure type to these young kids? So Clockers, for those of you who have not seen it, Clocker is a young kid on the block selling drugs, on the block selling drugs. And the character that I played was the person who put these kids out there to sell drugs. But that was not, I didn't want to fall into the trap of playing a drug dealer. I wanted to try to bring some additional components that hopefully would make it more compelling for the audience to witness, and also to make it more difficult for the audiences to discard or oh, he's just a drug dealer. No. So absolutely, I was interested in examining the father figure aspect, the relationship between Rodney, my character, and these kids that he puts on the block to sell. At that time, it was crack. It was the height of the crack epidemic, and how and why. What is so compelling about Rodney, but he becomes a father figure. So, you know, I've thought about these characters again in retrospect from the father figure aspect, usually in response to journalists asking me to deconstruct and rethink how I approached.
Yeah. It just occurred to me that Clockers is obviously so influential on The Wire, and that's where Michael B. Jordan, your Center's co-star, gets his start as one of those kids, exactly what you're talking about, being influenced by a Rodney figure. So it all comes back.
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So after this, these 3 films with Spike Lee during them as well, you have these really memorable roles in a lot of studio movies that people still really remember now. You have Ransom or Gone in 60 Seconds or Romeo Must Die, and you might have what are we applauding for? Gone in 60 Seconds? Is that
All of them.
Okay, wow.
All of them.
All of them. And sometimes in a lot of these roles, and as so many actors do, you come and you might have 1 scene, 2 scenes to bring out all the things that you were just talking about. This depth of thought you're putting into these characters. How do you do that? How do you turn these characters who have a small moment into these fully
It's
fledged
the writing, it's the writing. Like Captain Wanta in Congo, right?
Yeah.
It's hilarious, man. That it was a fun scene. It was just a fun scene to work on, and nobody is more surprised than myself that line, still beating my sesame cake.
Yeah.
Look, I gotta tell you, I'm at the Whole Foods about 2 years ago. I'm in the parking lot of the Whole Foods, man. And these 2 gentlemen in the car, they pull up next to me and they're talking. And he said, man, wait, you an actor, right? And I said, yeah. He said, you're in that movie, Congo. And I wound the window down and I said, stop eating my sister. Yeah, that's it. So it's the right. It was just a fun thing to do. And
but you add something to that line to make it.
well, I hope so. I hope so. And then Philly Moyes in Devil's Advocate. That was really interesting. It was not a lot of scenes, but what it allowed me to do, what it gave me the opportunity to do, because this is a man steeped in Santeria, and I was able to speak with people very, very familiar with that religion, and that gave me a whole history, a whole backstory, if you will, a whole area that I could research and delve into and hopefully inform the character that I was playing, even though it was only 3, I don't know how many scenes, 3 or 4 scenes, short, tiny scenes, but there was that heft because of who Philip Moyes is and the world that he's a part of and who he is as a result of that, the kind of human being he is. And I was able to investigate and research that world because of the character.
Are you the kind of actor who likes to just, in a way that part of the job is to do the research and to learn, so you're constantly sending yourself to grad school to learn about all these different
Exactly.
things?
No, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I actually went back to school and got a formal degree. Thank you. So I got my undergrad degree in 2004 from San Francisco State. Any Gators in the house? San Francisco State, all right. I'm doing commencement this year. San Francisco State has invited me. I got my graduate degree from NYU in 2014. I'm doing they invited me to do the commencement there.
Yeah.
Now I got off track. I don't remember. Why did I say that?
Oh, that's just studying and learning history.
But prior to 2004, I didn't have a formal degree. So whenever I would work, these were opportunities for me to educate myself, and that was part of why I was. That was part of the fun of delving into these worlds, delving into that material, and educating myself.
So to get to the 5 BLOODS, which is what these guys are going to see next, you and Spike Lee reunite after some time going in your separate directions. Were you still the same people when you got back on that set? No?
No, we were not. We had, we were grown, I think, gotten a few years older. But I remember when Spike, when Spike called me and said he had this script he wanted to send me, and I said, he said they wanted to shoot at a time of year where I was not sure I would be done because I was doing Good Fight, this TV series. And I said, man, I don't know, man. He said, no, just read it. Slick like that. See? Just read it. He's reeling you in. So, but there was an incredible warmth. And I'm not saying, there was a warmth to Spike, the way he communicated with me. And when we hung up, that first conversation, when he was first talking to me about the Five Bloods, right before he hung up, he said, I love you, man. I said, I love you, man. And we had never said that to each other before. Yeah, I know. It was, aw. No, it was beautiful. And I told my wife, Spike said he loves me. But to answer your question, yes, there was a warmth, more effusive about the way that he expressed himself to me, and actually, that did find its way into the work. I can't be specific, but just the overall working relationship was enhanced. And I believe it freed me to be able to, and again, I'm thinking about this now in real time as you're asking these questions. I believe that's part of what enabled me to grasp Paul in the way that I did and give Paul that expression. Because you've probably, okay, so who has not seen the Five Bloods? Raise your hand. I want to say you're in for I want to say you're in for a treat. Yeah.
Especially on the big screen, which so few
Yes.
people got to see it that way when it came out in 2020.
Right.
Yep.
I had reservations, and I think you will see why when you see the film. I had some reservations about playing the part. I found a way in. I found my way in, and once I had found a way in, and I could examine and kind of excavate. I've been asked the question, do you know when you're working on a piece of material that's good, that you've got something? And I tend not to think in those terms when I'm working, but it was grounded in a way that felt right, it felt good.
Yeah, when we talked about the monologue in the center, so you guys have not seen it, you were in for quite a monologue.
The only thing he said to me, and I don't want to give too much away, he said, he asked me not to stop moving, and that was the only thing he said. And another thing I heard, one of the takes of that particular scene, I don't want to get too much, but one of the takes of that particular scene, I had done something that was not scripted. I had improvised off. And Spike called cut, and somebody came up to me, I don't know, and I heard Spike say, leave him alone, he's in the zone, leave him alone. But you know, that kind of support. And the other thing, and I had this also on Sinners, we all did. Any actors in the room? Okay, so when your crew is very supportive of what you're doing, there are small signs that you pick up as an actor. And I felt very supported by the crew on Sinners, very supported by the crew on Five Bloods. And this is not to say I haven't felt supported on other films, but we're talking about these two films in particular. And I remember with the monologue you're referring to in Five Bloods, what ended up happening, it ended up being a dance between myself and the DP, camera operator, because of how the scene was choreographed, and the camera operator is walking backwards, but we just found a rhythm, and we found, and it was rich, because I felt so incredibly supported in that process.
You were in the zone, like Spike said, he was right.
Yes.
Well, you guys are good to see, there's gonna be a 10-minute intermission before the movie starts, so take your break, and Delroy Lindo, thank you so much.